gentlemen. During the next 15 minutes, we will be talking about the stakeholder theory. We have divided our presentation into 3 different parts. First of all, we will try to explain why the stockholder theory lost a lot of its power in favor of the stakeholder theory. Furthermore, we will also try to make a comparison between the 2 theories. And finally, we will try to give the advantages of the stakeholder theory. And we will also explain 2 important tools in stakeholder theory. Nowadays, the stakeholder theory has become more important because of some scandals. Scandals such as the Enron scandal showed clearly that when a company is only orientated on making profits, the company will not remain successful. Enron was a large energy company, and the company was very successful, but the company's managers only thought about their profits. They founded subsidiaries to evade taxes, and they never took care of their other stakeholders. In 2001, this big company went bankrupt because of fraud. And when this company went bankrupt, a lot of employees lost their job. And in this way, the stockholder theory lost a lot of its power in favor of the stakeholder theory. Now, Lawrence will explain another very important example that shows why the stakeholder theory is more important than the stockholder theory.
Yes, another example is Parmalat. Parmalat was an Italian company specialized in milk and market leader in UHT milk, but after a couple of years they started to make losses. But the actual losses were much higher because the CFO of the company also made his own expenses on the company. When the fraud was discovered, the actual debts were 8 billion euros. So this is another example why the shareholder theory lost its power. Because management only thought about the investors, they forgot all the other people who were very important to your company. And this isn't the right motivation. Because it's better to use the shareholder theory, stakeholder theory, because then the focus shifts from the investors to anybody who has any importance in your company. But not everybody is equally important for your company, so you can still divide them into primary and into secondary stakeholders.
Good, but why is stakeholder theory nowadays so important? Everything starts with the evolution of technology, and this evolution has created a treasure of information for every single stakeholder of a company. It's a 21st century reality, and every organization should deal with it. This is very contrary to the situation before 1980, because then the managers of a company didn't mention very well their most important competitors. They also worked isolating from their most important stakeholders, and innovation wasn't very important, or they didn't think much about it. But when you have good products, now you have to make sure that they are good in the future. And they didn't see that. They were blind to see that they had to innovate and everything. So make sure your products stay successful in the future. So the only thing they were thinking about before 1980 were the profits and profit making in order to get big bonuses at the end of the year. A good example of a company which was only thinking about profits is IBM. It was one of the biggest companies in the 60s and the 70s, but it almost got bankrupt in the 80s. Why was that? They were too long focused on the market of the expensive mainframes, while other companies were still starting with production of PCs, and they started too late with it. They focused on the mainframes, and managers didn't saw that mainframes were already outstripped.
So next point of our presentation are the difference between the shareholder model and the stakeholder model. As we already mentioned a couple of differences, now we look at the main difference. It's the focus of the company. So with the mission statement and the operational targets. We will start with the mission statements. When you look at mission statements of a stakeholder theory, you see words like sustainability, stability, and development. While with stockholder company, you see words like profit, growth, and market share. There are some big differences. There are differences in the operational targets. Here again, stakeholder theory wants to develop its employees, want to build factories that are environmental friendly, want to give fair wages, etc. While the stockholder theory wants to maximize its profits and to gain its market share. So it's better for me, I think, to use the stakeholder theory, because then you have more connection with every participant. You keep in touch with your suppliers, with your employees, so it's better, I think. By the way, you use stockholder theory, you only think about dividends and profits, and that isn't a good focus.
Good. This leads us to the next part of our presentation, the reason or the advantages why using stakeholder theory is good for the company and for the management. First of all, very important is that everyone's ideas are important for a company or for the managers. Having good communication, good relationship with your stakeholders gives you a lot of information about them, and it can help you to have a good policy for your firm. So it might be clearly that knowledge is power nowadays. This is the reason why new functions have been created, such as Chief Knowledge Officer and Chief Learning Officer. These persons have to deal with the information, have to analyze it, in order to stay adept at the changing behavior of consumers and to reach the goals of the company. All this is necessary to maximize the created value. Other important advantages are the support that the stakeholders can give to you. They support your project and your product, your innovation. Managers all over the world also know that everything starts with the customers, and when you listen to your customers, or when you ask your customers what is important to them, then it leads to customer satisfaction, also very important in stakeholder theory. And your employees can also give you a lot of information. You have to feel that you have to make that your employees or people who work in your firm feel like they are very important for the firm. Don't make that they just feel like being a number, because then job satisfaction and motivation is not created. Excuse me. Now Jürgen is going to tell you something about a very important tool in stakeholder theory.
I will tell you something about stakeholder management, because stakeholder management is nowadays one of the most important tools in stakeholder theory. Stakeholder management consists of two phases. First, stakeholder analysis, and the next, stakeholder planning. Stakeholder analysis is a tool a company uses to identify all its stakeholders. In this way, the company gets a long list of the different stakeholders. This long list is used to make a power interest grid for stakeholder prioritization. Let's have a look at this graph. When the company has all its stakeholders, the company has to position its stakeholders in one of the four segments. Then the company can see which stakeholders are the most important ones. The stakeholders that are interested in your activities and that have power over the company are the most important ones. In general, the stakeholders in this segment are the customers and the employees. And the company has to work very closely with the stakeholders. That's why the company has to use the process or stakeholder planning to find support for its activities. The company will ask some questions, such as, for example, what information do the different stakeholders want from me, and how do they want to receive this information. And then the company will interact with the stakeholders, and the company will try to satisfy them. And by using this tool, many benefits will arise for the company. Nowadays, a lot of successful companies such as Google, Lincoln Electric, eBay use this process to find support for its activities. Stakeholder management is also very visible because there are some organizations such as TNS that help companies to build sustainable and profitable stakeholder relationships. TNS stakeholder management consists of 3 phases: customer experience management, employee experience management, and corporate reputation management. TNS helps companies to define its customer strategies. They also try to show why the employees or the company's most important asset today. And they also help companies to get a better reputation. No, Joris will explain another very important tool.
Yes, one of the methods for measuring the management performance is a balance scorecard. It's a common use tool for companies to rate complicated goals. The first step to introduce a balance scorecard in a company is translating the vision and the strategy of a company into concrete goals. For a company who wants to rate its manager on stakeholder theory, it's important to find a good translation of their expectations into these concrete targets. After this, the management have to make sure that everyone in the companies knows what these targets are. In this way, both the management and the employees are on the same level. A system that provides rewarding for the workforce when they gain the goals is very useful to keep the employees motivated. A third step is to draw a scheme to realize the targets. It's very important that you also set little goals between the starting situation and the ultimate destination you want to go. In that way, you make sure that employees stay motivated, because when the gap between the starting situation and the point where you want to go is too big, the employees will lose their motivation because of the gap they have to bridge. When there are little goals between, these goals may seem more achievable, and employees will stay motivated because of the reward they get every time they achieve another target. The last step is the evaluation of the performances. The management compares the expectations they have set in the beginning situation with the situation they are in now. When they have obtained their expectations, they can look back to the process they have gone through and even improve it. After that, they can restart the process with setting new expectations. On the other hand, when they failed to obtain these expectations, they have to look back and see what has gone wrong, and they have to make an adjustment in their scheme or in their expectations to do better in the future. Like you all can see, the most important step is the first step, is the translation of the vision and the targets of the company into concrete goals. When there's a bad translation, it can result in an inaccurate behavior of as both the management as the employees. Recent studies has established that these targets can be divided into 4 main categories: finance, customers, inter-corporate management, and development and growth. Often a manager is only judged on this first category, the finance, but the targets that are in the 3 other categories shows the increasing attention that is paid by the companies over the last year to rate the performance of their manager, not only in the stockholder theory, in the satisfaction of the stockholders, but in the satisfaction of all stakeholders, stockholders included.
So we hope we've managed to give you a clearer picture about the stakeholder theory, because it is one of the basic elements of the 21st century organization. So do well for your stakeholders, and shareholder value will follow. And with this bombshell, it's time to end. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you.